I am Rishabh Pant. Cricketer tells rescuers on crash site. High impact car crash caught on camera. Pant breaks windscreen to escape burning car. "25-year-old Pant fell asleep at wheels. Loses control of his Mercedes-Benz. Car rams into divider and goes up in flames. Star Indian batsman Rishabh Pant faces burn injuries. Rishabh's lucky escape. Top focus, 6 p.m. Prime.
And that's our top focus here, right here on 6 p.m. Prime. I'm Nabila Jamal. Rishabh Pant right now, his quick health update. He's doing all right, recovering from all that injury. Nothing serious for now, but an MRI scan will really establish the extent of damage done to his body. Will he be able to play his upcoming tournaments? All that and more in this special. All right, now the crash of Rishabh Pant, his car which crashed into a divider, has let the car up in flames. We're going to take you through the moments before the car crash to give you an understanding on what really happened, how bad is the situation. Of course, just to a quick update here is that Rishabh Pant is doing all right. His condition is stable at this point, is what the doctor says. But let me take you through really the moments before the crash. From what we know, Rishabh Pant was driving a Mercedes AMG GLE 43. This is a superior quality car, but also at the same time he was driving on top speed. This is what the police suspect. Now the car collides into the divider and literally flies across the highway. That's what's happened. It moves from one end to the other towards oncoming traffic, and that's where the car went up in flames. Now, what was the reason for the car to really go up in flames? Initial suspicion here is that all that spark that was ignited because of the car flying from one end to the other, that's what led to the fuel tank opening up or bursting open, and that's why the car has gone up in flames. Precisely what the investigation now is also going into, about whether or not the sparks that was ignited post the crash indeed sent the car up in flames. Now, this car has about 7 airbags which all popped out in time, and that was one of the reasons to why Rishabh Pant's life was safe. Rishabh himself is said to have broken open the windshield to escape from that burning car. One can only imagine those moments where he felt trapped in a car, literally was forced to break open the window to escape the car that was all up in flames. And moments after the car, that he actually exited the car, that's when the car burst in fire. Thankfully, just about 15 minutes later, the ambulance arrived, but Rishabh Pant was spotted soon after the accident, profusely bleeding with several burn injuries and wounded. He was stable but severely wounded. Now, I'm going to cut across to Nikhil Naz, India Today's sports editor, who's been very closely following Rishabh Pant's case at this point. Nikhil, thank you for joining us. And from what we see here, Rishabh Pant was in top speed. That's what most of the experts say, because for a Mercedes car of this nature, a premium car, to actually go up in flames, what could have really possibly happened? Would you be able to tell us what's the speculation at this point in time while Rishabh is recovering at the hospital?
Well, Nabila, let's now, put forward the facts. And these are just facts, not speculation. This is not conjecture. So what is the first thing that we've been able to establish looking at that CCTV footage is that he was driving in excess speed. You can see those visuals very clearly, where you can see the car flying around. Typically on Indian roads, even if you're driving on highway, there is a speed limit of, let's say, 60 kilometers or at best 80 kilometers per hour. Clearly, those visuals are very evident. They show you that he was driving at a very high speed. That's the first thing that you can establish. The second thing, what we're getting to know, and that is something that still needs to be ascertained, is that Rishabh Pant, by his own admission, told the cops, and this is what we're getting to hear from our sources in the police, that by his own admission, he said that he had dozed off while driving that late at night. But this still needs to be ascertained, but clearly there is negligence there on that part. The other
Nikhil,
thing,
we have some big breaking news coming in on the same. I'm going to cut you short on that. We'll come back to you. But here's a big update on Rishabh Pant's health condition. Sources tell India Today that Rishabh Pant has now been admitted to the ICU. He is absolutely fine, though. There are no panic alarms here. But the doctors do not want to take a risk with Rishabh Pant's health. And that's why he's now moved to the ICU. Rishabh's treatment is going good, is what the doctors say. So far, no questions on his shifting. Of course, Rishabh's mother is there. She's satisfied with all the treatment that's currently underway. BCCI may also release a new health bulletin in about an hour's time. Rishabh Pant right now is at the Max Hospital, Dehradun. Max head office in Delhi is now in touch with the mother, doctors, as well as the BCCI. It's important to know how Rishabh Pant is currently doing. He is a star cricketer for the Indian cricket team, has won laurels for India. Really someone that the entire country is praying for. At this point, he is in the ICU, but let's not create panic. He is stable. His situation is fine, is what the doctors say. This is only as precautionary measure. He's been moved to the ICU. Yes, he's got some severe burn injuries on his back, and that's the images that you see there of Rishabh Pant. His back that was also charred because of the car going up in flames. So Rishabh Pant did face burn injuries. He has a ligament tear. He's hurt his ankle, his wrist, his toe. But still the situation at this point remains stable. He's only moved to the ICU as precautionary measure. But doctors saying nothing to worry. The best of treatment will be given to Rishabh Pant. His parents are currently at the hospital and all the doctors are in touch with the BCCI as well as the family members of Rishabh Pant at this point. Now, to give you a quick glimpse, of course, all of us are worried and praying for Rishabh Pant, but here are the injuries that we know of as established by the doctors here. Taking a quick look at what's happened to Rishabh Pant. In fact, initially it looked like there were some grievous injuries on Rishabh, but ultimately after checking him, there are 2 cuts on his forehead. We hear he's faced a ligament tear on his right knee. And also his right wrist, we believe, has been hurt. His right wrist also has been injured. In fact, right ankle as well, that's injured at this point. Right ankle as well as right toe that Rishabh Pant has hurt. All this and more, when there was speculation initially that it could be a fracture, etc. But that fracture has been ruled out. We believe it's only a ligament tear on the knee and then hurt his ankle, his right toe, abrasion injuries on the back, which of the images that we showed you extensively. Now, of course, Rishabh Pant is 25 years old. He is young enough to get past these minor injuries quicker. But the question boils down to, what about Rishabh Pant's future, his career in cricket and his upcoming tournaments? He's not just an anybody within the cricketing fraternity. He's really won laurels for the Indian cricket team, an ace batsman, wicketkeeper. Rishabh Pant and his future tournaments. Nikhil, last to give us a little more on that. Nikhil, you did say that these minor injuries won't really hamper his future prospects or his tournaments. But right now we hear that he's been moved to the ICU and they're monitoring him. He's got some severe burn injuries and a ligament tear on the knee. That may not be good for, at least when it comes to him playing cricket in the near future. At least for the next few months, he's got to be rested. Was there any big upcoming tournaments for Rishabh that he may miss out on?
Nabila, just to answer your question on the fact that he's been shifted to ICU, and that probably could be to actually monitor, as you mentioned, monitor any internal injuries that he might have had. Because when you see a crash of the magnitude that we've seen in the visuals that were, presented by the CCTV footage, there's clearly sometimes a risk of having any sort of internal injuries, whether they are head injuries or any other body part that they're internal injuries, which are not very obvious initially. So I think the next 24 to 48 hours is usually is when they monitor them in the ICU. As far as his external injuries are concerned, luckily, and maybe that has a lot to do in the Premier car that he was traveling in, that his external injuries are not of very serious nature. We did speak to a few people, that were present there while the accident happened, and later when he was shifted to a local hospital before being shifted to Max in Roorkee, and we were told that they're not of serious nature. It was earlier speculated that he may have had a fracture, but now it's a ligament injury. So all in all, in terms of the external injuries that he has, there is nothing to worry about. And I think that's the one positive thing that really comes out, because listen, he's 25 years of age. He's got his future ahead of him. And as you mentioned a short while ago, he's been a established match winner for India. In fact, he's one of those players that has been looked at as a future captain of the Indian cricket team. In Test cricket, in a short span, if you take a look at his career, he's played some crucial innings that a lot of people compare even to MS Dhoni, saying that listen, in this short span as a wicketkeeper batsman, he's even surpassed someone like an MS Dhoni in Test cricket. So he's very crucial for Indian team's fortune. Recently, as you're talking about what does the future hold, as in what are the series that he'll be playing, he was recently dropped from the Indian white ball setup. And so India has 3 T20Is and 3 ODIs to be played against Sri Lanka. He wasn't part of that. And somehow these things may be related. He has been one of those cricketers that has been playing the maximum amount of cricket in the last 2 years. Indian cricket team's calendar anyway is chock-a-block. And amongst all of that, if there's one cricketer that's been playing all format and hasn't been taking any breaks, not even for workload management, that has been Rishabh Pant. So probably never had that time to visit, to go back to Roorkee where his mother stays and extended family stays. Never had that time. This time he had that window probably because he was recently the team that was picked just a couple of days ago. He was dropped from the one-day setup and India are playing Sri Lanka in 3 T20Is, 3 ODIs. He wasn't part of that. And probably that is why this trip may have been planned to go back to his hometown. Otherwise, he's been on tour with the Indian team for the last 2 years continuously. So he wasn't part of the ODI setup. So in that sense, he wouldn't have really, there's no major miss as far as the Indian team is concerned. But as I said, he's very crucial for Indian team's test fortune. There's a lot of test cricket coming up. There's a lot of one-day cricket coming up. Maybe he would have made a comeback in one-day cricket. But at the moment, the one positive bit that has come out in all the reports that are coming out of Roorkee and from the hospital is that there are no serious injuries that can have any sort of impact on his cricketing career.
Okay, so, we're, of course, prayers going out to him. And as per cops, Rishabh Pant was driving in top speed. Possibly that's what's resulted in the car literally flipping over to the other side and catching fire. But here's a quick recap. If one remembers, in 2017, Rishabh Pant had posted a video of himself with a new Mercedes car that he had bought. That swanky car was all over social media that he put out. And after a fine run in the Indian Premier League Season 10, Rishabh had purchased this Mercedes AMG GLE. After Pant's accident, now our focus has gone back to that old video, of that 2017 video, where the star cricketer can be seen blazing down a road in his fancy new set of wheels at over 120 kilometers per hour. And even crossing it for a few moments on the streets of Delhi during the daytime. So this was his way of showing to the world that here's my new car, look at this swanky ride, it's my new Mercedes, etc. But what the social media focused on was the speed Rishabh Pant was going on at that point. This is a 2017 video, undoubtedly. Rishabh Pant was elated, he's young, he's excited, it's his new, it's his car that he wants to show off to the world. But his speed there was something that we need to very carefully observe, because that's also a cause of his accident today. We believe that he was in top speed while he was driving towards his home, even today when he met with an accident, and that may have resulted in the car going up in flames. Nikhil, really again not casting aspersions on what really happened without the police actually coming out with a conclusive report on that. But from what we hear is Rishabh Pant may have been on top speed today before he actually crashed into the divider. He briefly fell asleep, and that's when he lost control of his Mercedes. Now, if we go back a little to 2017, there's a similar video or a video that he's put out showing off his new car, the same Mercedes AMG GLE, where he spoke about his fancy car. He was so excited and driving on top speed in Delhi roads in daytime. And social media at that point too had slammed Rishabh Pant for driving in such high speed, and they call that illegal. So is this something out of habit? Rishabh Pant is a guy who loves to speed up on his wheels?
Well, Nabila, you can't help but make that connection. Okay, prima facie, this case, you could argue, yes, the two are not related. And I think the cops and whoever is in charge of this particular case is going to look at this case individually, as in look at the facts of this particular accident individually. But you can't help but go back to that 2017 video. And it's very interesting there, Nabila, because at that time, he actually put out that video to show his new fancy set of wheels. Inadvertently, at the time, while he was showing his new set of wheels, a few people on social media, they noticed that at the time while he was showing his new car, they noticed that the speed limit was in excess of 100 kilometers. It was nearing about 120 kilometers per hour whilst he was driving in the busy streets of Delhi. So that was, alarming at the time. There was a lot of flack that he got on social media. After which, I think he had, if I remember correctly, he had spoken about it. He had issued a public apology as well, and so that had happened at that time. But you can't now help make that connection simply because now it's not a matter of conjecture. You've actually seen that CCTV footage where you can see that car actually go from one side of the road to the other, and it's clearly visible there that it's not within speed limits because it's flying from one end to the other. So maybe this is worth investigating. Maybe the cops are going to take cognizance of the fact that a similar video had emerged in 2017. Now again, you can see his car in high speed, and so that is something that may not go in favor of Rishabh Pant once the investigations are concluded.
Right. Nikhil, thank you really so much for all that information, as you've really decoded what happened. And of course, there are a lot of ifs and buts because the investigation isn't yet conclusive on what really happened. Rishabh Pant, though, has admitted that he briefly dozed off in the car and that may have led to the accident. Now, a quick look at the car that Rishabh Pant was driving. As we know, he was driving a Mercedes car as opposed to another car. If Rishabh Pant was driving any other mid-segment car, we can only imagine the kind of injuries or the end result that would be, because we hear the Mercedes car was also a reason to why Rishabh Pant managed to escape. He survived because of the quality of the car. The car costs about 75 lakhs odd, upwards, close to a crore. His car is in fact fully loaded. In fact, this car particularly has crash sensors that create quite a cushion for the driver. When the car is about to crash, there are all the sensors that really protect the driver at that point. It's also got traction control that helps control the wheels in time, so that if the wheels after a crash swerves, usually this car has traction control to hold it tight so that it doesn't move from one end to the other. This car has also got 7 airbags, also airbags on the sides of the car, which may also be a reason to why Rishabh Pant survived. And of course, the fact that he was on top speed. Now again, this has to be conclusively established by the police, but it looks like he was on top speed, and that's the reason to why the car swerved, rolled to the other side towards the oncoming traffic, and that's what ignited sparks and led to the car going up in flames. But if this was another car, then one can only imagine what would have happened. The prayers going out to Rishabh Pant right now. We believe he's in the ICU, he's receiving treatment, he's fine, absolutely stable.